I Everyone has been muted, so please press *6 in order to unmute when we are called upon to talk. And we will jump right in with Adventist South Tillamook. Good morning, Eric.
Hey, good morning, Commissioner. How are you?
Pretty well, thank you. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. 11 patients in the hospital today. We have 9 surgery cases scheduled. Let's see, we had 12 ambulance transports yesterday. There were 911 calls, no transfers, no transports home. Little update on weather. Our clinics and urgent cares are open. However, the Pacific City Clinic and Sheridan Clinic are closed today. Any other changes, we'll announce those on Facebook. All of our hospital departments are functioning normally. We do have a lot of ice in the back parking lot. The plant services crews are out there putting de-icer on. The front parking lot looks pretty good. However, there are patches of ice, some outside the front door, main door of the hospital. And as I look out my window, I see some close to urgent care in the plaza. So if you are coming into the hospital or clinics today, just be careful where you see that ice. I looked this morning, and Friday through this morning, our ambulance crews responded to 77 calls for service. So we did have a busy weekend. Some of those incidents were weather-related, like falls on the ice and motor vehicle crashes. But to protect any confidentiality, I won't give any more information than that. So if you are out and about, be safe while you're out. Let's see, Dr. David Bradburn is retiring at the end of the month. We'll have a reception for him on February 1st from 11 o'clock to 1 o'clock at the plaza. So if you would like to come say congratulations to Dr. David Bradburn, I think he's been here 28 or 29 years practicing medicine. So we're excited to celebrate his retirement. Last Wednesday, we did have a fun celebration here at the hospital for some of our public safety family. Back in November, we did have an ambulance crash, and we did honor the EMT and paramedic for their great work with a critical incident award, and all of the other EMTs and paramedics who responded to that call. We also provided a critical incident award to Tillamook Fire District, Jace Hughesby, who's a trooper with the Oregon State Police, ODOT Tillamook, Burdens Towing, E&E Auto Body, Banks Fire District, Tillamook 911, and to Corporal Chris Barnett with the Sheriff's Office. So it's a great time to thank them for the great work that they did and assisting us when we unfortunately involved in a crash. So unless you've got questions for me, that's all I've got for you this morning.
Thank you very much, Eric. 77 calls seems like a lot. Do you have, offhand, do you have any idea what's a normal call volume for the same period of time?
Yeah, I'm gonna say it's not that much. Give me a second here, Commissioner, and I will do the previous weekend. And since I have the tool right in front of me, I'll kind of give you the what the previous weekend looked like. 57 calls the previous weekend. So 20 more calls in the same period of time.
Yeah, that is a lot. Well, thank you very much. I was interested to hear you say that the Pacific City Clinic is closed because I wondered, because of that steep hill, I thought, oh, the steep entrance is probably still totally icy.
That's my guess. I didn't get that information from Abby. I just asked her to find out which ones were closed, and I didn't ask why. But my guess is going up that hill is not going to be pleasant in this weather right now.
Yeah, I believe it. Well, for folks who don't know, the county offices, all non-essential services are closed today, as are all 3 public school districts and Tillamook County Circuit Court and Tillamook Bay Community College. And probably all for the same reasons, that there are a lot of places in the county that are still completely iced over. And rain was predicted this morning while it's still below freezing, which would have contributed to the problem and made it considerably worse. So it's not raining at my house. I don't know if it is in other places in the county yet. But the good news is that it's supposed to warm up this afternoon and stay considerably warmer, maybe into the 50s tomorrow. So by tomorrow, hopefully, we'll be all thawed out and people can be moving around safely again. Well, Eric, thank you very much. Thanks for being with us.
You're very welcome. Have a good day.
You too. So with that, we can move into the Coastal Caucus. Do we have Senator Weber or Representative Javity with us this morning?
You have me, Mary Faith. It's Suzanne.
Good morning. Nice to hear your voice.
Well, it's nice to hear yours too.
Thank you.
Last week was a really busy week because it was Ledge Week up until Friday, when everyone was worried about the weather, and then everything went remote so that people could get home. But we had all of our committees, days of committee work. Mine are in education, human services, the joint subcommittee in Ways and Means on education, which was a very long meeting because we had to okay what education is asking for and ask the hard questions about what the money for education is being spent on. Some very interesting results to that, and we'll see going forward just what exactly Ways and Means will present and will put out for the vote. Because, you know, the short session coming up in February is supposed to be just dealing with budget issues and with just tweaks to bills. And you will see that many bills that were passed are coming back, but with changes to them. It's like they're fine-tuned because people are realizing how they can be administered or cannot be administered and what needs to be changed. And then a lot of bills that were not even acknowledged in the last session are also coming back. One interesting thing that I learned is that a lot of these bills take several years to come to the forefront and people to realize that it may be necessary to pass something relating to these issues. And so as things come forward and they are fine-tuned, in the years it takes to pass them, they become more viable, and it's a good thing. My Highway 30 bill is coming forward again because we're seeing that it needs, the realm of the bill needs to be expanded, and the support that we're getting for this bill is amazing. Because people, especially people in the urban areas who use Highway 30 to come to the coast to go fishing and recreate, are seeing the things that need to be fixed, just like they saw what needed to be done for Highway 6, both economically and for safety. And we're still working to be able to fund a lot of those things. ODOT has a lot of funding issues that they're working through, and this winter and this ice storm has really stretched their abilities and their and the money it takes to be able to provide safe roads for us. So things will be interesting. I had several meetings with people that are very committed to the bills that they're moving forward. Health, Justice, and Recovery and the ACLU are very concerned about what will happen to Measure 110, because there are several bills that relate to how we will go forward with Measure 110, whether it will go to the voters for another vote, which is always a possibility, if it will be changed by the legislature so that it will relate more to the current drug issues that we're facing, or whether it will go on as it has been. There has been a committee that has been working extensively to make changes and to make changes that are going to apply across the state that will aid our law enforcement, our hospitals, our schools, to be able to deal, especially with the drug issues that have come forward. Another issue that's being worked on heavily is offshore wind energy. Now, it's not off of our shore here on the north coast, but it is on the south shore, and it will encompass a large area, and there are no real there's no real data on how that's going to affect the winds, the currents, how that electricity that's produced out there is going to be able to come ashore and to be able to be usable, and where it's going to be usable. And because everything has that domino effect, how is that going to affect the North Shore and the fishing grounds especially? So there's a lot of issues around that. We probably won't see a resolution to that for probably another 10 years. And so you will be hearing not only about the Habitat Conservation Plan and what it is doing to our area with the closure now of the Banks Mill, which is very close to us, but you know, not only the HCP, but wind energy and Measure 110 and how that is affecting our state. And then another issue that has been debated is something called right to repair. And, you know, a lot of things that you need to have repaired, you have to go to the person or the business or the industry that has created it in order to get it repaired, or it's, you know, defunct because you can't get repairs. And so there is a movement to make sure that other entities can make these repairs, and the information, the books, the whatever that it takes to be able to have the schematics to be able to repair these things are available. So that's another issue that's on the forefront. Coming up, one hot issue is, of course, the Banks Mill closing, as I said. And there's a loggers conference at Spirit Mountain this weekend that I'll be speaking at. And I'm anxious to connect with those folks because, you know, we are the trees and the ocean and the fish, and that's what sustains us economically when the tourists aren't here. So I got to tell you that a lot of the time spent during Ledge Days, the free time, is convincing other legislators that they need to support what you're moving forward. And there is a piece of paper called the bill back, and you need people's initials on that in order to go forward. And that bill back, with how many signatures support it, will hopefully push that bill forward so that it will be heard. Because, you know, like I've told you before, it's the President of the Senate and the Speaker of the House who determine what bills are going to be moving forward. With this storm, I have two wishes. One is that my garage door would thaw and I would be able to get my car out of the garage. And the other one is that I would have consistent internet. Working on broadband especially is very important to be able to keep us connected to the rest of the world. The other thing that I had a meeting about last week was undergrounding our utilities, you know, because of trees and fallen trees and ice and that. A lot of our infrastructure is threatened when we have these huge storms. And one of the ways that we can alleviate some of that is to continue to work to underground our utilities. So that's something else I'm working on. I'm sorry. I have a lot of gratitude for the PUD, for our emergency services people, and all the heroics that they did this weekend. And I also want to compliment the chamber on, that chamber event was scheduled for Saturday night, and of course it couldn't happen then. But the ability of the chamber to pivot and make sure that there was a wonderful celebration on Sunday night, it just it tells you what kind of a community we have. We are aware, we are ready, and I also want to congratulate the winners of the awards at the banquet. So with that, I think I'm going to say, have a great week. Thank you for allowing me to do this and our county to have this information on a regular basis. And I think that's all. Thank you, Mary Faith. Have a great one.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Senator. It really means a lot to have you on this call, and I learn something every week, and I'm just really grateful that you're able to join us and share information with the community. So thank you. And I agree completely about spotty internet. I'm grateful that I have internet right now, and I didn't for a long time yesterday, and I know that folks don't in different places in the county. So that's, it's frustrating. It's frustrating when the internet goes out. And it's interesting to think about how utterly reliant on it we are, now compared to 15 years ago, and when a lot of us might not even have had it or still had dial-up. So let me ask for, yes?
I'm in total agreement with you. Thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. It is funny to think about how drastically our lives have changed in terms of technology and how dependent we are now. It's really true. Well, I wonder if we have Representative Javity with us. Give him a minute to unmute. *6 if you're there. If not, we can move on to Tillamook County. Oh yeah, good morning.
Well, hello. I was just saying I am here, and I agree. One of my kids was up last night and was having an existential crisis because they could not connect. Actually, both of them could not connect to the internet, and they didn't know how anyone could survive. And I said, humankind has existed for thousands of years without it. This is what it was like when I was a kid. You just kind of read books or played board games. They couldn't even imagine how they made it.
It's funny, isn't it?
But that aside, it's been a busy weekend. I'm sure everybody's had their fair share of sliding. I was over in the down east on Huey Lane yesterday, and you head up to that area there next to the hill, and just a sheet of ice over there trying to get around. And so there's still definitely pockets, it seems like, all over the county that are worse than others. And I know that they're hunkering down and hoping that we get some kind of thaw here. And I will be over later, Senator Weber, with my blow dryer, and we'll see if we can unthaw that garage door of yours. But aside from that, business of the legislature, it was a busy week. It was Ledge Days. I appreciate Senator Weber's rundown of all the big issues on the Senate side. We're hearing some of those same issues on the House side. I specifically spent quite a bit of time on Friday listening to issues in the Healthcare Committee. One of the big issues being discussed is a topic called white bagging. If you've never heard of that before, it relates specifically to pharmacy drugs, and so it'll have a big impact on people who, need to use the pharmacy regularly, especially those who've got illnesses like cancer. at stake here is the insurance companies claiming that they are spending too much money on drugs that treat cancers and different illnesses. Some drugs are costing $50,000 from the manufacturer, and then they're getting marked up by different providers, sometimes 400%. So insurance companies are on the hook for that. Oncologists were at the table as well, saying that's not true. They're not doing that. They need to have the flexibility to use the drug they think is best for the patient. And the insurance companies and the oncologists are trying to fight over whether or not pharmacists insurance companies should get to decide where the drug comes from, and oncologists would like to continue to decide where the drug comes from and which drug they use and how much of it they use. So an interesting discussion. Nothing's been decided. It will show up in the short session next month, and that's something that will get talked about quite a bit. We talked about, like Senator Weber said, Measure 110. There's a lot of interest on what's going to happen on the table right now. From one side, the Democrats would like to recriminalize drug possession to a Class C misdemeanor, which is the lowest misdemeanor, is my understanding. And then on the Republican side, they're also proposing a plan that would recriminalize it, but make it a Class A misdemeanor. And both sides seem to want to have a pathway for making it possible for people who do have these convictions to have a way to get it off their record. So we'll see which bill makes it through. I bet the Democrats' bill will get through since they are in the majority, but there's probably not going to look the same as it does today. There'll be some tweaks to it. Last week, we also got the news. I don't know. I came in a little bit late, so I'm not sure if Senator Weber touched on it, but the Banks Mill, Hampton Mill and Banks announced that they'll be closing in response to the potential outcome of the Habitat Conservation Plan. And if you didn't see that press release, a couple of interesting points out of there were about 65, 70 employees, and something around, I think in the last 7 years, they've produced enough lumber, 2x4s, to build I think 150,000 houses, and I think it was $200-300 million in economic activity in that area. So it's going to be a huge loss for banks, and unfortunately, probably the tip of the spear on what we're going to see in other communities that depend on their livelihood from the state forests. So not to be the bearer of bad news on an otherwise already kind of busy weekend, but I think a lot of us have seen this coming, and we're starting to see maybe the first domino fall. And we'll be working hard in the short session, as I mentioned last week, to get some legislation in place to try to mitigate some of this. But really, this is on the executive side of the government, which means the governor and the Board of Forestry don't really have to listen to the legislature or anybody else for that matter. So I'd recommend, if you care strongly about this topic, to talk with, send letters or emails to the Board of Forestry, to the governor, etc., and express what your feelings are. And it's not too late to have them kind of change course, but it's looking like it's maybe a done deal. Other than that, this week we'll be focused on getting ready for the session. Last week, like Senator Weber mentioned, all the legislators introduced their bill. So everybody is now seeing what everybody else is going to be working on. It's kind of like a game of poker. Everyone's been kind of holding their cards close to their chest at this point. And now they've kind of shown their hands. And so now we see what is coming. There's 126 bills that we'll be discussing over a 3-week period. And some of those bills are over 100 pages long. So there's a lot of work, a lot of reading to do, a lot of discussions to be had with colleagues, a lot of late nights trying to sort through bills that are, if you've ever tried to read, are not as exciting as a John Grisham novel, and see if we can come up with kind of what we're going to do and what the session's likely to do, how it's likely to measure up. But and then we're likely going to have a vote on a new speaker. well, that's kind of a rumor right now, but the current speaker, Dan Rayfield, is running for Attorney General, and there's a couple of replacements. Rep. Sanchez is rumored to be interested, and so is Representative Fahey, who's the current majority leader. So we'll see what's happening there. Some of my big goals for the short session, aside from the HCP bill that I'd like to get passed, is just get us some money. I'd love to get our district the millions that we need for, the radio facility, the infrastructure for wastewater, seafood processing, housing. I'd like to see some money set aside for daycare services. And so there's some big projects that we need some money for, and the way we're going to get it is to sneak it into, well, it's not really sneaking it, but trying to amend into bills these asks for this money. And so we'll see if we're successful in doing that. Some of it's likely to work, some of it's not, but we'll be hard at work trying to plan a strategy to get that. So lots of work to do in the next 2.5 weeks before the session starts, and then it sounds like a roller coaster. It's my first short session, so I'm preparing for the worst and expecting the best. So that's it. That's all I got for my report for this week. Any questions?
Thank you, Representative. I really appreciate your report. There are some fascinating things in there. One, I'm wondering if you know more information about why the Banks Mill closed.
I talked with the CEO last week, as well as Senator Weber. She talked with them as well. They've seen a partial reduction in activity as small changes have been made by the Department of Forestry over the last little while. And what he said was, look, we're looking ahead, and with the current harvest levels being what they are, and the expected harvest levels getting a little worse, we just can't make it pencil out. And so this sounds like they're just forecasting that this is going to be an issue and trying to prepare for the future, as and allocate resources to the mills in Tillamook and Astoria to keep those running. But they didn't get too much into the math behind what's happening, but just that they did, say that this is just absolutely necessary right now to keep their business viable and to respond to what's happening with the Habitat Conservation Plan.
Thank you. Yeah, it's interesting because I just wondered precisely that, like, do they know something we don't know, or are they just forecasting, or yeah. And
I think
so,
they're just forecasting.
Go ahead.
No, sorry.
May I
think they're just
interject?
forecasting. Yeah.
May I interject
Please.
that they haven't been cutting the amount that they are allowed to cut, and so they've been falling behind, gradually falling behind in the wood that they have available to them at that mill from the state forest, and which is part of what Representative Javity's bill is going to hopefully push forward, and that is that if they say they're going to cut this much, then they should cut this much.
Excellent point. Yeah. Yeah, because how can people budget? How can counties budget, for example? If the projected amount doesn't, if the amount of timber produced is not nearly what is projected or what's allowed, to your point.
That's exactly the issue, and I appreciate that comment. And Senator Weber, your insights too. I mean, at stake here too is the government is setting a precedent saying, hey, if you do business with us and you invest all this money and all these resources and hire all these people, hey, there's a really good chance at some point in the next few years we may, pull the carpet out from under your feet. And so we have to be careful as a government when we broadcast signals like that, because we do rely on our private partners to make the economy move around here and to accomplish our policy goals. So this leaves a bad taste in the mouth of county governments, but also our private partners like Hampton and others who have been good partners in the past and currently are, and we want to treat them right. And things like this, we're going to make them think twice about continuing to work with us. I mean, not that there's a lot that they can do at this point, but because the government's doing this. And I failed to mention there are some other movements by the majority party right now to impose a severance tax on our private forests to help make up for the income loss. There's also a move to increase property tax bills, one-time charge by I think it's it's $10 per property tax bill in the upcoming year, which I mean arguably is not a lot, but it you can see now kind of what the machinery is in the background that we didn't know about a few weeks ago to try to start to make up for this shortfall. And nobody really wants to see a revenue increase. There's also some rumors coming out of the governor's office about a sales tax and doubling the gas tax on our automobile fuel, et cetera. So some of it's rumor, some of it's based in fact and truth. We're going to know a lot more over the next coming weeks, so we'll make sure to report on that. But in an already high inflationary environment and other factors, it's going to be interesting. And I think there's going to be some frustration when we see mills closing. On one hand, we're trying to make housing goals, and then people are trying to eke by on what they've got, especially our fixed income neighbors who are relying on Social Security to make do on their bills, but their bills keep going up, but their Social Security doesn't. So there's some real pressure here and some frustration, and we've got to make sure that they don't forget how this really impacts the average person who lives and works in Oregon, and doesn't just think about how it works in the capital. So that's it. That's all the doom and gloom I've got for you today, Commissioner.
I really appreciate this conversation. I was thinking about just recently, we had a conversation in our office about how maddening it is that the Board of Forestry is developing an HCP that doesn't require the Board of Forestry to be self-supporting. So as harvest levels decrease, the Board of Forestry isn't going to be able to, the Oregon Department of Forestry isn't going to be able to pay its own bills, and they too will be going to the legislature for more support. And the whole thing is just maddening.
Yeah, it really is. That's a great point. And you and I could talk about this for hours, I bet. So maybe we will. I'll give you a call and we can hash out the details. But it's frustrating, and I'll make sure to keep us updated. And those are the questions we'll be asking the Board of Forestry on those committee meetings: is what's the plan? And we'll see what their response is.
Thank you.
Bell.
I appreciate that.
Commissioner Bell.
Good morning.
Commissioner Scarr. Good morning. How are you?
Well, thank you.
Excellent. I want to jump in just quickly. As you all know, that with Commissioner Yamamoto leaving, this has become one of my topic areas. And I spent a fair amount of time last week on the telephone with various people regarding this specific issue relating to the Habitat Conservation Plan, relating to the viability of the Department of Forestry, viability of the counties, of our mills, of everything we're looking at. So I want to give people a heads up. This conversation with the Board of Forestry will close in relation to public comment. They were clear at our last Board of Forestry meeting that they are going to hold 3 more meetings, which will not be with the Board of Forestry, but will in fact be with Cal Mukamoto, who is the director for the Department of Forestry. And there will be 3 listening sessions that will be recorded. They will take themes out of those. They will add that to what has already been received in terms of public testimony. And that will be the end of public testimony on this topic, which I think is a signal to all of us that they're going to get ready to make a decision whether, we feel that they've heard us or not. So we at the Forest Trust Lands Advisory Committee are working hard to make sure they have heard us, but we want to make sure that anyone who wants to get final comments in on the Board of Forestry is aware that there are 3 sessions coming up. These have not been publicly posted yet, but keep your eyes out for them. the news I have ahead of that is that there are 2 in-person listening sessions. One will be in Eugene, one will be in Astoria, and then there will also be a virtual listening session. These will all take place between the 25th and 31st of January. So it's coming up very soon. Testimony again will be recorded. People will have 2 minutes and to make their statements, and then this will be summarized for the Board of Forestry. So I think we're getting a signal here that they're coming to a decision point. So again, if you want to make sure that you're heard, if what you're hearing this morning concerns you regarding to the mill closure in Banks, regarding the Department of Forestry's ability to fund its own services, what regards to what will happen to the counties, all of that, this is the time to get your final comments in to the Board of Forestry. So keep your eyes open for those coming up that starting the 25th of January. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you, Commissioner. Well, the other thing Representative Javity was talking about that caught my attention was the issue on prescription drugs, the cost of prescription drugs. And I've read articles about prescription drug costs being higher in the United States than in any other first world country. And so there's something really wrong with our system that we're overcharging so dramatically for prescription drugs so that people with cancer can't afford to get them. And so I'm glad the legislature is reviewing that, and I think that it's a long overdue review in our nation about why in the United States of America drugs are so expensive that they're not affordable to the people who need them. And to the representative's point, they're not even affordable to the insurance companies. There's something really wrong when the insurance companies can't afford to cover the drugs we need. So I'm glad you all are working on that in Salem. Do we have any other questions or anything else for the Coastal Caucus? If not, let's move into the Tillamook County Community Health Centers.
Good morning, Commissioners. This is Ed Colson with the Health Department.
Good morning, Ed.
Good morning. So we just wanted to share that all county offices, including our clinic, are closed today. And so we're going to reassess this we're going to reassess this again this afternoon to determine any more closures. So we just ask that our residents in the county please stay safe, and if there's an emergency, to please contact 911. We want to thank all the crews that have been working hard over the weekend and throughout today in the weather, and we want to thank CARE for enacting their warming shelter over this long weekend. We know it was cold, and that was very helpful to the residents in the county here. And that's basically our report there.
Thank you so much, Ed. I appreciate it.
My car said 35, and I'm like, yeah.
Okay, we've got somebody unmuted. Thank you. Hey, there's someone unmuted. Check your mute buttons. Thank you. Okay, let's move on to Nehalem Valley Health Center. Do we have Gail this morning?
Yes, good morning.
Good morning.
Yes, we are open today. Hospital Drive, the road taking up the hill, is passable. It has been sanded, and just a word, take it slow and you'll be fine. Our pharmacy hours are 9 to 5:30 today, which is normal, and we're open during lunch. And of course, our clinic is open till 6 p.m. So if you need anything, please give us a call at 800-368-5182. Thank you.
Thank you, Gail. Do we have Frank Anna Williams on from Tillamook Family Counseling
Good morning.
Services? Good morning.
Can you hear me?
Yes,
good morning. Frank Anna Williams, Director, Tillamook Family Counseling Center, Behavioral Health Services for Tillamook County residents. Just wanted to say is that our offices are closed. We are in the process right now of making sure we have contact with folks who have appointments for today and kind of coordinating that. We anticipate being open tomorrow. It seems like the weather's going to open up, going to get a little bit warmer. And I also want to let folks know that if you have a concern that is urgent, that our crisis emergency services haven't taken a break. They are still available, and you can reach us by calling 503-842-8201 or 1-800-962-2851. And if there are any questions, I will take them.
Thank you, Frank. Do we have any questions for Frank this morning? If not, we will move on to the sheriff. Sheriff Brown, are you with us this morning?
I am here. Can you hear me?
Good morning, we can.
It always takes a second if you're not paying attention to get unmuted and then get on there. So when I'm busy
right.
and trying to multitask, I'm afraid you'll miss me. But anyways, yeah. So clearly the sheriff's office and all first responders have had a busy weekend. I think it could have been a lot worse, and I'll kind of talk about why I think that here momentarily. But I just want to give a few stats that I can relate from the sheriff's office, which again is only a small snapshot of what first responders were doing because it's the sheriff's office only, and I don't have the ability to pull stats from other type of things. But what I can say is that over the course of this weekend, Saturday, Sunday, and Monday, we had 113 calls for service. Now, if you compare that to, say, last weekend, there was only 87 calls for service. So there is a few more than what happened the weekend prior, and given the type of weather and the situation that we had, that's pretty reasonable as well as expected. But if you compare that to, say, New Year's weekend, there was 318 calls for service, so we're considerably lower than that holiday weekend. So, and that's one thing I'm kind of leaning towards when I say it could have been a lot worse. Our call volume could have been tremendously higher, but residents that live in Tillamook County generally is, kind of stayed at home and played it very safe. There were some that had to venture out for different reasons, but generally speaking, most of Tillamook County seem to play it safe and realize kind of what's going on here. So what I can say is out of those 113 calls for service, 14 of them were motor vehicle accidents, which is a very high number for 3 days. The good news is of those 14 motor vehicle accidents we responded to, 11 of them were considered non-injury. So that is a good note that everybody can take from this. It's also, I want to make sure that everybody understands that the 14 we responded to is not directly related to exactly how many crashes there were in the county. Again, I can't pull stats for the city, or if we didn't respond to one because OSP took it or something to that effect. So there most certainly was more crashes than that within the county or within the city. So, but that is what we responded to. Additionally, there was 13 road hazards, which could be anything from debris in the road or a vehicle stuck on the road, things of that nature. So there were numerous calls that I know the ambulance responded to that were just general medical, but there was also a pretty large number of fall victims, people that did try to step outside, probably more than what you would see on any given or normal weekend, just due to the ice. There was also a lot of utility assist calls that came out. Different agencies were helping, whether it be PUD or Public Works, from power outages, things of that nature. So, the kind of calls that you would expect on a very stormy or ice stormed kind of a weekend that we had. So, overall, I think the county did very well. I do want to say that even though I've been in this business for, going on 18 years now, it still impresses me to no end the people and the community and the first responders and utility workers that we have in this community. PUD, ODOT, Public Works, the road crews, all of them that were out there working in these terrible conditions. All of our ambulance crews, all of the fire departments, all of the 911 dispatchers were getting in there and they were plugging away to help our community. It amazes me, the people that we have. And of course, maybe I'm a little bit biased, but to my staff out here, the deputies that not only the deputies that are patrolling out here in the ice and slick and terrible conditions, but our own jail staff making it into work to be able to cover duties that we're required to cover. So it's my staff is amazing, and I'm very proud of them for being out there and helping the community. And I've said it before, this is the greatest place to be a cop, and proud of all of our first responders, 911, Public Works, et cetera, down the line. So with that, I can take any questions, but that's all I have.
Thank you, Sheriff. I agree completely that we just have outstanding people living and working in our community. All the first responders, PUD personnel, people who were, I talked to Rachel Haggerty yesterday, and her husband works for PUD, and he'd been out working for days on end, and I know that all the PUD crews have been working like that, and it's really extraordinary the dedication that people have to their jobs, and not only people who are paid to work, but also the volunteers who, like Ed was talking about, CARE has had warming centers open, and the volunteers who came through the ice storm in order to be there so that houseless people can have a warm place, a safe place to be during this weather. It's really maybe my favorite thing about this community is how committed people are to helping one another. And I think it's worth talking about because I don't think that's true everywhere. And so I think we're really lucky and blessed to live here and to participate in a community that cares about one another in the way that we do.
I couldn't agree more. And like I said, I wanted to make sure to give recognition to, like our dispatchers and our jail staff, that although they're not out in the public being seen, they still had to brave the elements to get in to be, true first responders. So, very proud of them, and very, very thankful that they're part of this first response family.
Thank you. I agree completely. Well, thank you for being with us this morning.
You bet.
Do we have any questions for the sheriff? If not, let's move on to emergency management. Randy Thorpe, are you with us?
You bet, Commissioner. I'm here today.
Good morning. How's it going?
Good morning. It's going a lot better than the weekend started out, and like I say, I just can echo what the commissioner has said and what Sheriff Brown has said, is that this county really came together this weekend, and I'm proud to say that I'm a resident here and that I'm the emergency manager here. I sit in a lot of meetings or with a lot of the other emergency managers and state people throughout the state, and I listen to things that are going on elsewhere, and I just sit back and go, wow, too bad you don't live in Tillamook County. You wouldn't have those issues. So anyway, again, it's just a big shout out to everybody. It was just really a come together thing, and especially we had the unit Cape Kiwanda came through last night and comped a room for a family of 4 that had been without power since Saturday. Again, that just shows me that it's just not our volunteers, just not our public safety people. It's everybody in the community. When they see a need, they come together and help solve it. So again, just shout outs to everybody in the county on that. As far as what we're looking at weather-wise, it looks like we are definitely going to be moving into the thaw stage. Again, looking around, temperatures are still below freezing in most of the county. And so again, there's going to be anything that was wet yesterday day is still going to be nice and frozen here for a few more hours. They're saying that we should get up to about mid 40s today, which is nice. And we should be hitting that temperature just shortly, around 1, 2 o'clock this afternoon. But the real good news is that our nighttime temperature should stay above freezing now for the rest of the week, which is really a good thing. And like Commissioner Bell said, it looks like, we're going to get back up into hopefully the 50s by Wednesday. So that'll just help continue to thaw out the valley. They're looking at, an inch and a half of rain in the next 24 hours, and then about the same on Wednesday. But talking with the river forecasters, luckily we're not going to go from ice to floods. So at least in the near future. And so they're not predicting any major increase in river flow with any of the rain that we have. And luckily, like I say, with the temperatures, we're not going to get extremely warm and not going to have those heavy rains up where it has snowed. So anyway, with that, I think we just still need to be careful. There's still going to be icy areas out there. Road crews are doing their best to make sure that we can get safely around. But again, it's still cold out there, and like I say, anything that was wet last night is definitely going to be still frozen today. And I just want to urge everybody to please sign up for the Oregon alerts. You may get more alerts than what you care to get, but at least you'll get the most up-to-date information from a lot of different agencies. And also just go to the Tillamook PUD site and sign up for their alerts too, because that's another great way to keep on top of outages and a lot of times estimates of return of service. So another great service that they provide out to help people understand what's going on within the county. So with that, I will turn it back to Commissioner Bell.
Thank you, Randy. I appreciate your report, and I appreciate your leadership through the storm as our emergency manager. I'd like to mention that Randy has worked through the storm, of course, as the emergency manager and essential personnel, and he convened multiple meetings of folks who were communicating and working through the storm, and folks from all over the county. And those meetings were very helpful. It was really helpful to hear from folks from Manzanita to South Tillamook County, to hear from people in road departments and emergency responders and volunteer coordinators, to hear from the PUD, of course, and get their regular updates. And so those meetings, the communication went really well in this storm. And I'm grateful to Randy for convening the meetings, and also to everyone for participating. It was really helpful, I think, just to be able to hear reports about how things were progressing, and to be able to jump in and make recommendations or suggestions or offer help. So I think it went that went as well as it could have in this storm. And thank you to Randy.
Oh, one other thing, Commissioner, I guess that I wanted to mention too is that I will be presenting to the county commissioners tomorrow a declaration of emergency for the county in conjunction with the storms that we've had through the weekend. Again, main reason for this is that it opens the door for any type of state or federal assistance that may come. I think that with the amount of damage that has been done statewide, hopefully, there may be some other avenues for us here. So that's another reason for us to get that declaration of emergency in, is just to help us be able to take advantage of any state or federal help that can come down the line. So I just wanted to throw that out just so people are aware that we are, looking out for the county and possible help in the future if we need it. And that's the end of report.
Thank you, Randy. I appreciate that. So that'll be an unscheduled item on our agenda tomorrow. Okay. Do we happen to have Chris Lady on the line? I invited him, but I know he's busy. Chris, if you're with us, unmute. If not, let's move on to the Board of Commissioners. Commissioner Scar, would you like to start us off?
Sure, I'd be happy to. Thank you. Well, I will start by just echoing what has been said by everyone about Tillamook County in emergencies and how we just really come together. We do have an amazing emergency response system. We have a lot of fabulous volunteers. Businesses get involved. People's neighbors get involved. It just, everyone comes out to help, and it really is an amazing culture that we have in Tillamook County. So I do want to thank everyone who's been a part of the response this weekend. I know PUD and our emergency responders in particular have been out there pretty much 24/7 during this. So a huge amount of thanks to everyone who's a part of that. Okay, shifting on to regular life before the emergency and after. So we have talked about forestry. I won't go into a lot about that. I did attend my first Working Lands and Waters committee meeting last week, talking about scheduling a couple of tours for this year. I know that everyone has heard Commissioner Yamamoto talk about those tours, and they really are pretty amazing tours. It's an opportunity to see a working forest, to really talk with the foresters and those who are doing the cutting, the replanting, all of that, to really understand modern forestry techniques. It's a huge learning experience. And in addition to that, typically they visit a working dairy and some form of a working fishery, whether that's a fish hatchery or an oyster hatchery, or I think they did the Port of Tillamook Bay recently, looking at, because it was when I believe the tuna were coming in off of the ocean and being sold off the boats. So there's just some really amazing opportunities in those tours. So we will have 2 tours coming up this year, one in the spring and I think one in the summer. So I will get more information out as those come around in case there are folks in the community who would like to participate. I think, again, an amazing way to learn about Tillamook County and the natural resource industries that we rely upon for a good portion of our economy and our living wage jobs. So more to come on that one as we move forward. Again, just quick highlight, if you weren't on this morning, we talked about some listening sessions coming up for the Habitat Conservation Plan. These have been flagged as the final public comment opportunities, so keep your eyes open. Those will be posted shortly to come up in the next 2 weeks. A couple other things just coming up. The Salmonberry Trail Intergovernmental Agency will be meeting on Thursday in Banks. It's available for anyone who would like to view that meeting through the Oregon Department of Forestry's YouTube channel. It's a great opportunity if you're curious about what's happening with the Salmonberry Trail to get an update on that, to learn if there are ways you can get involved or ways to submit public comments and so forth on that. You can actually attend that meeting in person in Banks. It is at the fire station on Highway 26. So that meeting is coming up Thursday of this week, certainly pending, I'm sure, the breaking of the storm for the in-person portion. Couple other things from this last week. I had my Pioneer Museum board meeting. Some of you may have noticed the Pioneer Museum is closed this month. They are doing some major cleaning and reorganizing work inside the museum, including things such as cleaning out their reference and genealogy library to make it more usable for everyone. So if you've been waiting and wanting to do some research into your family in Tillamook County, they will have that completely reorganized and ready for you starting February 1st. There will also be a reopening on February 1st that includes a new exhibit in the main exhibit hall, along with some snacks and presentations. So they've been doing some really good work this month with the museum closed, and I invite everyone to keep an eye out for the opening and the specific details, but that will be coming up the first part of February. And with that, I know we have a long call going here, so I will turn it back to you, Madam Chair. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. Any questions for Commissioner Scar? If not, we can go on to Commissioner Olson.
Good morning, Commissioner. Can you hear me? Make sure I'm unmuted properly.
Good morning. We do hear you.
Okay, very good. Well, here in South County, we still have some icicles hanging, but it's actually a nice morning. And as was reported, hopefully it will warm up and we'll get back to normal. At our house, we've been without TV and internet for most of the weekend. But that's better than a lot of people have had because we had heat and we're reasonably comfortable. And since there's no school today, there might be some youngsters listening, and I'll advise them that there's this thing called a book. It has paper and a cover, and you'll be surprised what you can learn and entertain yourself by reading a book when you don't have any internet. So that would be my message to young folks today. A number of things I'll comment on just briefly since we are short of time. Our Sand Lake Road situation, this is the week where the actual work starts. Now, I suspect it may be delayed a day or two or three because of the weather, but the idea was to bring in a crew this week and work through possibly mid-March to restore one-way traffic. And what they're planning to do is put what's known as soil nails or long tubes into the slide portion after they first haul off about as many as 1,000 yards of dirt and soil, and that's about 100 dump trucks, by the way. And those will go further up Sand Lake where the county owns some property, and they'll dump the spoils there. Those tubes go into the side of the road, and then they take what's known as shotcrete, which is concrete, and apply it against the wall of the slide, which they've created by hollowing it out, and then put up some barriers and guardrails and stabilize the soil. And what that means is that if we're at all lucky, sometime in mid-March, there'll be one-way traffic, and it will be controlled by a signal device, might be on a timer where you might have to wait like an ordinary traffic signal in a city for red or green. And then you go, and that will restore passage on that highway. The longer-term fix, of course, is probably going to be a year and a half or 2 years. It will involve a much larger retaining wall, guardrails, and probably go down the hillside clear onto the beach, which means that the state will need to be involved because of state parks on the beach. There'll be some land use issues, and it's a long-term prospect. And of course, that means money as well. So way more to come on that, but it does look very hopeful that we'll be able to use that route to and from Pacific City. I might add, I spoke with Brian Vitelli, who is the general manager of Tillamook Transportation, to see if there's anything we could do about rerouting buses or otherwise give the people who live in Tierra del Mar or Sand Lake area a way to get to Pacific City or South Tillamook County. I know many of the folks there have mail pickup in Pacific City and, of course, a grocery store and those sorts of things. He indicated that's probably not likely, but he did remind everyone that Dial-A-Ride is still active and can be called upon. And if you can't drive that far or you're unable to drive or for whatever reason, Dial-A-Ride may be a solution. So you'll need to get the number, which I don't have handy, but they do offer that service, and so it's at least an option. A couple of other items. I believe we're doing budget interviews for the budget committee this week. There are 3 vacancies out of 6 people. The budget committee consists of the 3 commissioners and then 3 lay people. And over the years, there's been an effort to bring people in, 1 each from South, Central, and North Tillamook County. I'm not sure if we'll be able to do that again this year, but we'll get people lined up for that committee and then go through the normal budget process in the next 60 days or so. I'll talk for a moment about Tillamook Lightwave. Most of you know that Tillamook Lightwave is the fiber optic middle mile provider, and it's been around for 20 plus years. And it was formed back in 2000 by an intergovernmental agreement with the port in Tillamook Bay, Tillamook County, and Tillamook PUD. And for all those years, it's helped bring middle mile service and high-speed internet to much of Tillamook County. Very recently, in the last few months, the port of Tillamook Bay determined it didn't really line up with their strategic plan, so they gave notice as provided in the agreement and withdrew. So the Lightwave group has been talking to other agencies about filling that void, and it could be bringing in just 1 agency, perhaps as many as 2 or 3. So I've been out on the road, and I've talked with the community college, Tillamook Bay Community College Board, at their most recent meeting. They've expressed an interest. Also talked to COLPAC, which is a regional economic development agency, and they too have expressed interest and have asked for more information. And finally, the 911 district, same thing. They have some interest. So more to come on that one, but it looks like we'll be able to fill that position and perhaps even expand the agency a bit. Couple of other things. I did go to a Fair Board meeting, one of my liaison responsibilities. And of course, those of you who know people on that Fair Board, this is not a board that sits around and approves budgets and long-term plans, although they do that as well. They actually sometimes come together and they have their tool belts on and they do work around the fairground. So it is one of the most engaged and active groups that I've ever seen over my years and being around this stuff. And so I think the county, as was mentioned earlier, so many people step up and do so many things in this county. It's amazing what gets done with relatively few agencies and not a lot of money. People just show up and do what they do and bring their expertise. So at the Fair Board, there was some discussion about what's happening with the expansion of the college. And then people may also have heard that there will be some baseball fields developed in the large parking area immediately west of the fairgrounds, between the college and the fairgrounds. There's a lot of open land. Some of that is going to be turned into youth baseball fields. It will still retain the parking for the fair, but it's another way to take advantage of open land and provide some services for our young folks. So that seems like a very, very good idea, and led by people at the college, the fair, and the YMCA. So the people, again, have stepped up and said, let's make some use of what's in our county and our cities, and how can we help? And sure enough, it's evolving into baseball fields. Just one or two other things here. I think the cities are meeting regularly, and as a new commissioner, I've been going to city councils and simply introducing myself, trying to put a face with a name, because I think the way I look at this, we are all in this together. We all serve the same people. If you happen to live in Rockaway Beach, you also live in Tillamook County. And rather than be competitive or adversarial, which I don't think we are at all, we're a partnership. And so if we can say, well, the county can do this or the city can do that, or maybe we can do this together. And Rockaway is a pretty good example because the county provides law enforcement services under contract. And that seems to be a very good relationship. And so those sorts of things, I want to see the county and the cities blend their services, or at least work together to the extent possible. So with that, I know we're low on time. So Commissioner, I'll turn it back to you, and thank you very much.
Thank you, Commissioner. Any questions for Commissioner Olson? Well, you have heard me talk already in this meeting, and the only other thing I want to say is to repeat my thanks to everyone who's been working through this storm to keep us safe and get the power back on. We are very grateful for your service. And with that, let's jump into the cities. Do we have anybody on from Manzanita? There was an emergency management meeting planned for this afternoon at Nehalem Bay Fire Department that has been canceled due to weather. So that's the only thing I know about from the city of Manzanita this morning. Let's move on to Nehalem. Do we have anybody on from Nehalem? Or Wheeler? How about Rockaway Beach?
Good morning. This is Charles McNeely, Mayor of Rockaway Beach.
Good morning, Mayor.
I will start by, good morning. It is a little chilly out there. Glad I'm inside the house with the power on. And so my thanks to TPD, Tillamook PUD for dealing with all those outages. I also should thank the Pacific Power because we had a transmission line go down and they stepped in and got it fixed pretty quickly for us here in this area. Well, let me start by thanking Commissioner Olson for taking the time to drop in on our city council meeting last week to introduce himself and his offer to step in and provide assistance as needed. You know, my kudos go out to Commissioner Olson for taking the time. And I do agree that we are all in this together. Collaboration is my North Star. So if there's anything we can do in Rockaway Beach to help, the offer goes back out to you, commissioners, to work together on challenges and issues. At last week's council meeting, the City Council passed the 2022-23 fiscal year audit action plan. It directed city staff to close city trails that are used to access recreational areas and post no access signs. They awarded additional community grants to the Friends of the Library and passed 4 resolutions touching on sorter protection, including establishing a citizens advisory group. This is the second major step we're taking in Rockaway Beach to, we hope, eventually acquire the Jetty Creek watershed. Our city planner, Mary Johnson, was appointed to serve on the Northwest Oregon Area Commission on Transportation. Congratulations to Ms. Johnson as she continues to add value in our community. Don Kaiser was promoted to Assistant Fire Chief. Congratulations to Mr. Kaiser for this well-deserved promotion. And then Knife River broke ground on our Anchor Street project, which includes paved parking, event space, benches, and 2 age-specific inclusive playgrounds. Anchor Street Parking and Park was also one of 2 sites in Oregon awarded funding for EV charging stations through the Department of Transportation Charging, Fueling, and Infrastructure grants. Our site is expected to receive 4 DC fast charging stations and 1 level 2 charger. With that, I'll send it back to you, Commissioner.
Thank you, Mayor. I appreciate your report, and I also appreciate what you just said about collaboration is your North Star. That is a lovely thing to reflect on and a great motto. And I appreciate your offer to be helpful. We'll certainly keep that in mind and think about ways that we can work together. I'm grateful for that. Thank you.
Thank you.
Moving down the coast, do we have anybody online from Garibaldi? I believe Mayor Findling has another meeting at 9, so I think we probably missed her. How about the city of Bay City? Bay City has a new mayor, Leanne, oh, her last name just flew out of my head, which is ridiculous because I totally know it. They have a new mayor. Hopefully they'll be with us next week to announce. How about the city of Tillamook?
I believe
Hello.
I believe Mayor Welch was trying to get on, but she may be having some muting issues.
Thank you, Mayor Welch. I'm embarrassed that her last name was not in my head.
No problem. But so this is City Manager McCall.
Good morning.
Good morning. So if she's not able to, yeah, and I can relay the information that she was going to relay if she doesn't make it.
Okay. Star 6. It takes. There's a little pause.
Okay. So let me just start, and if she gets on, she can interrupt me and silence me.
That sounds good.
So at our city council meeting last week, as you know, yes, we did appoint Leanne Welch to be our new mayor. She took over for interim mayor Kathy Baker, who had been serving in that position for 6, maybe 7 months now, and did an outstanding job. And Leanne is very welcome in that position. So we also had a hearing on the updates to our development ordinance and transportation plan. We will continue that over the next hearing on that. It will be at our February meeting. And we also signed a letter thanking Nan Devlin and Visit Tillamook Coast for all the work that they have contributed to Bay City over the past several years. You know, we started with not knowing what destination management was and developing that. And this last year, we saw several different projects come to culmination and implementation, including the wayfinding signs downtown, the mural along the west wall of City Hall, and I'm drawing, and also the new hiker-biker section in our campground with new bathrooms and restrooms. Those are all thanks to Visit Tillamook Coast. Without them, it would not have been possible. And so we'd like to acknowledge our great relationship with them and hope that it continues in the future. Thank you.
Thank you. I appreciate your report. Thank you. And congratulations to Mayor Welch. Do we have Nathan George on from the city of Tillamook? Nathan, are you with us? Do we have anyone else, Commissioner Olson, do we have anyone else on the call for South Tillamook County, or did you cover that report?
I think what I said we'll probably do unless someone wants to step up. I'm not aware of anybody, but I'll begin knocking on doors, see what we can do, and get somebody who can cover this part of the world. Thank you.
Thank you. Well, unless Nathan George is joining us at the last minute, I will say thank you to everyone for participating in this call. Thank you to KTIL for broadcasting this call, and thank you to everyone for listening. Stay safe, Tillamook County. This call is adjourned at 9:16 a.m.